Nice to meet you guys. Hi, Kristina, gentleman Shiba Inu. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, but I would love to kind of learn a little bit about you to know what would be helpful for you in this session, because I'm here of service, like trying to be helpful. So my background is corporate lawyer. I've been a corporate lawyer for the past 8+ years, representing startups and also venture funds throughout their life cycle from formation to exit. And originally, I'm from Russia. I'm an immigrant, so I came here in 2014 to study law at USC. Then I worked at 2 venture-backed startups, and then I worked at a big law firm called Cooley, which is famous for like venture capital tech work. And in September 2023, I became a US citizen and started my own legal company. I focus on representing startups, and we have a law firm. We also have the legal company that packages the legal services and automates them. And now we're building a platform that helps startups to deal with legal throughout their life cycle. So in a nutshell, that's that. I also have social media following, community of entrepreneurs globally, and that's kind of how companies come to me and ask for help with starting their business and growing their business, especially in the US, and especially if you want to raise venture money. So that intersection of tech, law and media, that's where I sit. It was zero revenue me in 2023, and 2024 we hit over $500,000. We're a team of 4 right now, and we are actually right now hiring a CTO to kind of own in-house all of the product development. Tell me a little bit about you. What are the main things that you're here for? Yeah.
So my questions would be more regarding the tech side,
Mhm.
so the law tech side probably. So I wanted to, in the future, to start a tech company. So my question would be, so I'm into robotics. So
Nice.
the branch, the context. So in which country would you suggest starting a tech company, and what mistakes should I avoid legally, probably?
Yeah. I think there is undoubtedly Silicon Valley is number 1 for starting a tech company. And the reason is very easy. It's just the concentration of investors, concentration of high quality talent. So you'd be able to find a co-founder, hire, and just the number of serendipities you can have on any single day is amazing. And the mindset of people in Silicon Valley is really great for entrepreneurs, because when you tell them something, it might sound crazy, I want to revive I don't know, this not dinosaurs but mammoths, and people somewhere else would be like, are you insane? Is everything okay? But here, yeah, this is really interesting. So what is your plan? And that startup raised over $200 million, and they are reviving mammoths. So I think the mindset of yes and versus, oh, it seems what is it? It's never been done before. Here, oh, cool, it's never been done before. Investors are looking for some I was recently at this meeting with Tim Draper, who is a famous Silicon Valley investor, and in his kind of these ginger we don't no, he was chewing on a cord. He's looking for some controversial ideas that don't seem to make sense at first. So people here had big wins, and that's why they're looking for the next big thing.
But just here, or do you suggest other new startup hubs in the world, like maybe Dubai or?
Dubai is good. I feel like half of Russia moved there for sure. And I see a lot of my friends come for conferences there, to record content. I'm yet to see that something is. I have a client from Dubai, but they still have Delaware C-Corp. And it definitely is better here right now.
You just mentioned the Delaware C-Corp. Why is everyone choosing it in the US and even some European countries choosing this form of corporation?
Yeah, 2 things, because everyone is just familiar with Delaware. Your investor council is familiar. They have a very developed body of law. When it comes to business law, they have their own court of chancery that deals with these cases. So just the state where everyone is comfortable with, it's predictable what's going to happen there. That's why we just don't want to, reinvent the wheel and, do the due diligence under different law. So yeah, and especially for venture-backed companies, we have unusual document structures. So when you go to a different state, sometimes like Illinois, for example, we did this startup, they really wanted to be in Illinois, and the Secretary of State like didn't even know what I'm talking about. He's like, why do you need 20 pages in the certificate of incorporation? So, and just like, he knows traditional businesses, but when I'm talking about like different classes of preferred stock, all of those things, it's unusual for them, and they're clunky. It's just like, it's, slows down the whole process. But most importantly, that predictable body of law that you can know how everything will happen, and judges also know how to deal with that cases. So although I'm admitted to practice law in California and New York, most of my time I deal with Delaware law. I don't know how still they don't require us to be like Delaware lawyers, but yeah.
I have two things that I would like to explore with you. First, I saw that you focus a lot on the mindset and how you say it's important to change and how Silicon Valley has a very different one. And I wanted to understand, how was your journey coming from Russia? What were the main things that you had acknowledged there and that you saw that here wouldn't try? How was the process for you?
I think how honest can I be? So my journey in Russia, I was one of the youngest government officials there, like since I was 18 years old. And I was doing politics, investment projects. And my mindset was that you have to have connections and you focus on being well connected. So in other words, you play the influence game, like prestige game. I think America is all about money game. If you have money, you can see it now, like you can have your own president, you can have your own senator, you can have like all of that. You don't have to become a president to have influence, and like half of Silicon Valley right now moved to White House. In Russia, still government is like number one, and business supports. Here, business is number one and government supports. Like if you want to run for Congress, 70% of your time you will be spending fundraising. So rich people don't go into politics. They will have their own politicians doing the thing. That for me was a shift, because when I came here, I was like, I'm going to go into politics. And I'm like, why no one wants to go into politics? I'm like curious, why no one? My professor was the mayor of West Hollywood. I was like, why isn't that prestigious? So that's the difference. Another thing, at least when I came here, that was the case, that I realized breaking the law is just not an option. Like for startups, you have to bend the laws in gray areas. Like to give you an example, straight out of law school, I worked at fintech startup, and we were providing micro loans in emerging markets. So we wouldn't survive if we were subject to bank regulations. So we had to make a case that we're a software company. And it's similar to Uber, right? Like we're a software company, we're not really, blah, blah, blah. So as a startup, you're in the gray area. But in America, at least at that time, breaking law just bluntly wasn't a good option. It wasn't a smart option. You have to make an informed business decision that it doesn't apply to you, and then maybe ask for forgiveness. But just because you have connections, you couldn't just, make things happen. We'll see what's going to happen now. And that for me was a learning. One of my clients got investigated by FBI. I'm like, oh, this is how it works. Even if you have connections, you still have to abide. Yeah. And I still believe in that. Like it's not worth here to break the law. It's very dangerous here to do that. And you can see like crypto companies, Web3 companies, you see people go to jail. So you have to be more careful, because I think people here believe in the law more than in emerging countries. In emerging countries, connections. You just that's the most important thing that will get you out of every trouble. I'm not sure whether connections will get you out of every trouble in America. So that was my learning. And in terms of the mindset, I realized, and I think that also came from the learnings, that I realized that I need to achieve here things on my own. Connections get you that far, but you actually have to have skills to achieve something, to make money. And then for me, it became a journey of being helpful for others. I have to have skills that help others, and that's how I become valuable, and that's how you create your own wealth. And that's how I went to law firm. I was like, let me learn the actual skills. And that took me a few years to become a good expert. But now my journey is actually growing my mindset again, like how to scale the abundance and how to grow in the like 3x, 10x. And that is my journey now, because like growing my revenue, like tripling my revenue, it's not like I'm going to become smarter or get additional skill. I just need to think different. And it's not like I'm going to work more. Like there's like a finite number of hours. Yeah, I'm changing the strategy from gaining the hard skills to like networking is always a skill that you need, but focusing on what is it that would give me the outcome and how do I get there. Like to give you an example, I started from the law firm and my mindset, like how do I scale it? How it becomes multi-million-dollar business? Not just by doing more, not the services. In order to scale, I realized I need technology. So that's the scalability factor that I realized. In order to scale distribution, content, social media, I rarely do like things like that I go somewhere, because like how many people here versus I post one video and it gets tens of thousands and millions of views and it translates into business. So I just realized that I need to scale both distribution and execution. And it took me time to, first of all, decide that, get clear in my head that that's what I want. I don't want $1 million outcome. I want like $100 million outcome. So I need to change what I do right now in order to get there. And then believing in yourself, like working with limiting beliefs. That's the journey. Because now you know, okay, like this is what you want, but like, is it even possible? And I think Silicon Valley is really great with that, because many of my friends are millionaires and billionaires and they came from nothing. So like, this is how you think, this is how you do. Being around them really helps to think. When I was working at Big Law, I would have conversations with my friends. They would like ask me like, Kristina, what are you doing? Like, why are you working here? And I'm like, I really love my partner and it's like really great clients. Like, but how are you going to become wealthy? Like, what is the plan? What is the grand plan? I'm like, I don't know. I thought you get a prestigious job and then again, like, I think the main two games, if you play materialistic game, is prestige, money. What really helps you to move beyond, I think, is having your own meaning, like why you do that. And then you figure out how to scale that, if that's something that you want. Because it's totally fine to not want. And that's also part of the clarity, that I just knew that I do not want to sell my hours for money. Just like my hourly rate, for example, now $7.47, I don't want to sell. I want my hour to cost like tens of thousands of dollars, but I still don't want to sell it for tens of thousands of dollars. I want to build something that will work when I don't work. And getting that point of clarity, I think it's really important. So when I left Big Law, I took some time off. I went to Brazil for a couple of months. And yeah, I really got clear in terms of what is my why. And the value that I realized is important for me is love. And I share love through product, services, content by being valuable. Like I give some like skills, like specific tips or inspiration or showing my journey. But I also do it in my way that it is love for me. So I don't sacrifice myself on that journey that like, okay, services is sharing love, but I hate it. Like I'm not doing that. So it's finding the way to be aligned with your value in a way that you give the world what it needs, but also you do it in an authentic way that it's you. Like for example, my content, like I just do what I love. And I'm really glad that I found the way, the angle that it works. But I just share, share my life, and I do it in a way that is authentic to me.
So start.
Yeah.
You have like some follow-up to that?
I just wanted to understand a bit better your journey as a content creator. Like, I understand that this is a bit strategic to then scale with more people and grow the company based a bit on this. One of the things that I would like to understand, if it's in your plan or not, is having the company that where it's associated to you, but at a certain point it will be independent
Yeah.
and ruling by itself.
Yeah.
And you just remove yourself from there and gain some profit around it.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really great question. And that's exactly the strategy. Right now, it's focused on my personal brand, but this year, like once we build the platform, we will be developing the brand for Lexi, for the legal product company. Because the goal, it should sell itself. The product is good enough. It should sell itself. And my personal brand shouldn't limit them, but also I don't want to be limited by legal. The way I see it, my personal brand will be big as like millions. Legal is hundreds of thousands. So yes, my personal brand will be helping and I will be the producer behind that brand, but I want it to be separate because I'm very authentic and I can see that at some point my personal brand might not be fully aligned with legal and I still wouldn't want to change myself for that. I'd rather have two different brands. Yeah, so for sure. And that way I can automate things. I can have a social media manager running the legal brand. And for legal brand, I don't know, if I have 20 likes and one purchase for 2K, totally fine. Like, this is great. Like, for me, it's not great. So I think for legal brand, the most important thing is the revenue. Like, does it sell? Does it convert? For my personal brand, I see it beyond just sales. I would love to have a global impact. Yeah, I think you had.
Sorry. So how do you decide for your clients? So your startups often don't have a lot of money, right? Compared to the bigger companies.
Yeah.
So how do you decide your clients, and when should startups decide to get lawyers' advice?
Yeah, it's a good question. We're not cheap, so definitely like those clients who qualify, that is an issue. We did it recently the way that it applied to work with us versus schedule a call with us. So when you apply to work with us, you choose an option, which product you're interested in. So you see the prices kind of start at 2,000. If it's like not a good fit, you just don't book a call. But also with the platform, for example, we are trying to build something that could work for startups that don't have money. You still wouldn't you wouldn't get a lawyer for less than $500. Like, even for $500, I wouldn't be doing anything, right? Our retainer is 5,000. Our product starts as 2,000. But the platform that we're building, it will provide you with the document generator, so you can use AI to generate your documents based on the templates. And the subscription would be somewhere between $150, $300. So you could generate some documents. It might not be perfect because there's if lawyer didn't review it, but we will provide an option, add-on option, lawyer review. So maybe for another $150 or $300, you can request a lawyer to review the document you generated before it goes out. So that's the idea. We democratize access, but we can do it only with technology because lawyers are very expensive. Like, I cannot democratize by just giving cheap things because lawyers are not cheap.
But at what point do you think it's necessary to have a lawyer?
Good question.
Entrepreneurs do have the mindset to do it all by themselves because it's cheaper. Right?
Gotcha. Okay, so there are two ways. The way, thank you, bless you. So usually, I know, this is his walk, and I walked him here. He's like, I thought we were going for a walk. So for give you a specific example, we have a startup launch package. It's $2,400, and you have everything you need to start a company. We incorporate, issue equity, set up equity incentive plan for you to give to your advisors, consultants. We give you templates. We connect you to the bank, that you file 83B, and we nicely everything packaged in a data room ready for investors. So it would be perfect to start with that. You could do it yourself, but for those who did it yourself, you didn't do something right, we have due diligence package for $3,500 because they did something wrong. So it's usually when you do something wrong, it's going to be much more expensive to fix. That's why we do our best to build products that, if you're starting a startup, venture backed, 2K you should have. If you don't, maybe go get some customers, get a job, do something that you at least can get 2K. But there are other tools, for example, Stripe Atlas, Clerky, that allow you to create the startups. If you really know what you're doing and your case is very plain vanilla and you don't have any customization, it works well. But I that's why we have due diligence package, because I've seen it not work well when, like, folks didn't do it right.
So normally you're talking about the US, right?
Yeah, and it's very interesting because, like, I focus on the US, but this morning I had a call with the founder. I don't know, he thought I'm global, and he's like, so how do I do that? I'm like, hold on a second, like, what kind of company you have? He's based in India. So, like, I don't know. So we will see, when we do the platform, we will see if there is a demand for international, and then we will plug in lawyers like myself around the world on the platform to help with that.
Tell us a bit more about the legal steps a company has to go through since its creation.
Yeah. So basically, initially, you need to decide, if you're a solo founder, cool. If you are like two co-founders, you need to decide how much equity does everyone own, who is going to be a CEO, then are you going to be bringing someone else? So the equity split and control, who does what, the roles. So when you have this understanding, then we start the company. The way it works is that we file the certificate of incorporation with the Delaware Secretary of State if we start the Delaware C-Corp. And another step before that is to decide whether you want to raise venture money or not. If you do Delaware C-Corp, let's just like go that route. But if you're doing maybe like a consultant business, you don't want to raise money, you might want to start as an LLC if you don't have those venture scale ambitions. So once you decided on the entity type, the goals, we filed the certificate with the Secretary of State. We got it. So, okay, now the company exists. We have shares. The next step is to appoint the board of directors, appoint officers, issue shares to each of you. Usually, and it's really important, especially if you're venture backed, but even if not venture backed, like imagine two of you started the company. And what are your names?
My name?
Yes.
Leonardo.
Filippo. Leonardo, for example, you're the CEO and Filippo is the CTO. Filippo you got 50-50 shares, and Filippo is like, you know what, like, I don't think it's worth it. Like, capitalism, like, don't really believe in it. Like, I'm gonna go to Bali and I wanna meditate. And if there is no vesting schedule, then you will continue working on your startup on Filippo, like meditating. And if you sell the company in a year for $10 million, $5 million will belong to him. He meditated well enough for both of you. Yeah, so vesting schedule is basically, it's like you have to earn the equity. You have to work for at least 4 years, for example, in order to vest those shares. And in between, you might break up. If you break up, he returns the shares to the company. You can hire someone else and give them the shares. So we issue equity to you subject to vesting. If you're in the US, you file 83B election just to be taxed on the value of the shares right now, which is almost zero. These are very important steps. Then we obtain like employer identification number with the IRS, with the tax authority. Then what else we do? We set the equity incentive plan. If, for example, you want to bring a couple of advisors, we'll issue equity to them. And open the bank account. You're ready to receive money. We give you the data room with all of those documents. Everything is ready. You just have to succeed now. Do business, raise money, and then there will be other steps.
What elements of San Francisco culture you don't like? What elements of Russian culture you miss?
Elements of Russian culture that I miss. To be very honest, it's really interesting, but I feel like I'm in Russia right now. Very similar to what I grew up with. Yeah, not saying anything better, just like I feel very familiar to what I saw in Russia. Yeah, it feels like very interesting, adventurous times. When I was I became a government official when I was 18, it was like very interesting. Like, there are no rules. You kind of play. The world is your oyster. And I feel like now what is happening in America is very interesting. Like, oh, you want $5 million for the gold card. You just change the rule, and now you can invest $5 million and get a green card in the US. Yeah, that was the times when I was a government official in Russia. Like, very, very entrepreneurial. What I don't like about Silicon Valley, I only maybe one thing, and it's not that I don't like, but it's just I noticed that this is not for me. Hustle for the sake of hustle. When hustle is your badge of honor, oh, I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I barely survived, look how hard I work. it means you can't manage yourself and like others. Like, I'm sorry. And another thing is that because here's like, you always raise venture money, people sometimes don't think, is it actually the right path for me to raise venture? Is it like a venture scale business? And I see a lot of startups being just like zombies. They focus just on raising. They're not really doing much. They don't really bring value. And it's just like this artificial focus on external things. You have to hit something to get the next round. I think it is not healthy, because at the end of the day, you likely not succeed. You're wasting your time. You're not going to be rich because you're not making a lot of salary as a founder, but you're playing the game that everyone else is playing. But I feel like in Silicon Valley, there are people who actually, they are playing. And raising money is just like, you have to raise because you're really scaling and you can't handle that scale. You have to raise. And there's like just the storytelling that like we're doing this and that and the FOMO, and that's why we're raising. But I think it's in any culture, in Russia as well, like any culture. There are people who are really focusing on solving the problems, and there are people who just, float around and tell the stories. Yeah.
What are the main mistakes that you have seen in startups when fundraising venture capital?
Yeah, like we're going through this right now. So this international startup, the founder is really great. She's international. So before I joined, she was raising money from investors, but because she's international, like for her, like a $5 million, like a full $5 million is a lot. But in Silicon Valley, these are very, like the valuations basically start like at $6 million. So she raised a bunch of money with low valuations, and thank God the company does well. Usually those companies die. Like the company does well. So now we have to redo the cap table in order for the company to succeed. So we got the term sheet for the price seed round, and we need to go back to those stakeholders to renegotiate the valuations, because it's basically the whole mistake is dilution. So when you raise money, you have to think, it's basically Series seed round, Series A round, right? And there is like some pre-seed. So you have to sell not more than 20% of the company per round. If you dilute yourself more than that, like for example, in that case, post this round, she would end up with her co-founder 35% of the company, seed company. So like, she's like, well, I might as well get a job, like 35%, even if we succeed, it's going to take years. Like how much of the company would I have left? So planning your dilution is really, really important. And it all comes down, you manage your dilution by like how much you raise and what valuations. And when you plan like that, you have to think, okay, what is my next milestone I'm going to hit to justify that valuation?
Another question. So in the term sheet, usually there are economic terms and control terms.
Yeah.
And all of those, when talking and negotiating with venture capital, it is really important to understand those and not playing power games behind their backs, and to make sure that how can I say this? They are very well negotiated, because the relationship, when discussing these terms, will also be kind of a relationship afterwards.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's very true. That was very, a thoughtful comment that you made. The most important terms you negotiate: economics and control. Economics is just the valuation, what would be the option pool, and control, who gets to vote on what is the composition of the board. And your first round of financing is the pivotal one, because after you agree to that, you're not going to get any better deal. Like, this is it. You're going to get only worse, because all the new investors want something like that plus extra. So when you're raising money, I have an example. Our client got the term sheet, and it's a seed stage company, and this investor wanted to invest like $400K, and he wanted 2 board seats. I'm like, like, I'm insane, or like, what is wrong with you? But this company is run by a doctor, so he's not an expert in that. And he thought it's a good term sheet. I'm like, this is a horrible term sheet. Like, you should absolutely not take it unless you're very desperate for money.
And what resources are there, like books, courses that we can use to learn these things and to these problems and mistakes?
That's what I do with my content. and also you ask about the content. The angle that really worked for me, I tell horror stories. So for example, right now, like at 11 a.m. there was a video that was scheduled on my Instagram, and so that's the video. I lost $2 million investment because I gave 5% to an early, advisor. I wanted to reward early believers, but investors saw my cap table full of debt equity. That's the over dilution problem that I told you about. This video, like 17.5K views. I have videos over 1 million, like almost 10 million views. It's basically the most common horror stories. I post that, and then in captions, I explain what happened, how to prevent. Then you download a checklist. I have like the checklist of, this is the dilution per round. This is how much you need to give to employees, consultants. So we post that content constantly. It's free. So that, and another book I would recommend, Venture Deals. Yes, that was the beginning, but like my content is, the next steps. And another one, Scott Cooper, the partner of A16Z, Scott Cooper. So his book is Scott Cooper. I think so. Book, venture. Let's see. Secrets of Sand Hill Road. So Scott Cooper. He was an entrepreneur, and then he became a partner at A16Z. Which is one of the top venture funds, and he's a lawyer. So his book tells you about the VC perspective. So it's very helpful. Yeah, my content, I try to like dumb it down that it's horror stories, so it captures your attention there. Yeah.
What role would you say plays personal branding in being successful here in the ecosystem, and what would be your recommendations to start like a personal brand on Instagram or whatever?
Yeah, like it's very helpful. Like there are basically two ways to like make it here. You either build something cool, and like that's why people want you in the room, or content, like whatever the medium you prefer, Twitter, writing blog posts, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it is, but that is the best way. And if you build and write about it, like that is the best. Like all of our, all of the customers, it's inbound. Like I don't do any outbound, which is super helpful. And it also, like you expand the network. It's about the network. But I don't go to networking events just to like, hey, my name is, and like, ideally you do something of value. And while you're figuring out how to do it, you ask for advice, or just people, come to you to help you because they think what you're building is cool. That would be my recommendation in terms of networking, and put yourself out there. So my friend he was a general partner of A16Z. Now he's Trump's advisor. So he started in Silicon Valley from Microsoft. How he got he was in India, like he was in not Shanghai, Chennai. Yeah, Chennai. So he lived in that city, and he just started writing blog posts. Microsoft noticed him, asked him to help organize some event in Chennai, and he got a job. Yeah, and like long story short, he was helping because he worked at Facebook after Microsoft. He was helping Elon also with Twitter. He's general partner of A16Z, and now Trump's president. And he pushed me to create content because he's like, this is your like permissionless way to win, and you cannot be replaced. You're not a commodity. When you build a product, there are so many products, right? It's about trust distribution. So when you have distribution, you don't need anyone. Like I build, people come to me. I iterate, build more people come to me. I think that's the best way. You don't need anyone's permission.
Yeah, when you start a company, especially being an immigrant here in the US, there are many things that you don't know regarding the law. And my question is like, which are the hugest risk factors that you face when you come here? Maybe possibly you don't work with a law firm, and you're on your own. So how risky is it? I mean, you can get fined, but is it common that early stages startup founders go to jail?
Okay, what are you building? Like, I think immigration, the most important risk for you in the beginning, just like protect yourself, right? You can be a founder, but if you don't have the work authorization, you can't work here. So I think that's the most important part. But the rest, like, it depends if you're venture backed or not. If you're if you want to be venture backed, those mistakes are really expensive because people will be reviewing those things. So you might not go to jail, but you also might not get an investor because it's messy. So if you, and also if you have like a co-founder, formalizing that relationship is really important because again, you wouldn't go to jail, but you might just have a dispute between the co-founders. How are you going to resolve it if you don't have a good operating agreement, for example? And I see a lot of founders, like they just spend all of their savings disputing something because they're being sued, so you kind of have to do it. In terms of the fines, like obviously taxes, make sure you have a good CPA, so you file all of that. Yeah, but with legal, you will feel it. When you start building something valuable, you're like, okay, I want to make sure it doesn't go to toilet. Like I need to do something. But at that time, you will have a little bit of money. So start working with the law firm, like building the relationship. Again, like for startups, literally come to us. We support you well. And you just need certain milestones. Okay, launching a startup, just launch it the right way. And then like forget it until you hit certain milestones. So we can fix things that happen in between, but like make sure your foundation is correct. Yeah, and be careful with co-founders, also employees, consultants. You can get sued really easily. I guess the main risk in America is getting sued. Not, yeah, like you hired someone and you misclassified them. Yeah, they're gonna sue you. And I guess it's also kind of like, it comes down to money. If they see that you have money, they will go after you. If you see they don't have money, you don't have money, then like, okay, then what is the point? So once you start having money or you have money, you gotta be protecting them. Like that's the thing. Yeah.
I was wondering, what are the costs that a startup needs to face when facing
Shit. And that's it, because everything is papered up. So I think co-founder divorces could be really, not even co-founder divorces, like you ask someone to help you on a project, you didn't discuss any compensation or equity, the next thing you know, they're suing you because they want like 20% of the company. And that happened, like this is the real case. So being like very careful what helps, who helps you, papering that up early on. And if everything works out, perfect. If not, like you protect it. It's like a, what is it? When you get married and you sign this paper, prenup kind of, yeah. Yeah.
Imagine you've got a situation, like ready to do that as well. You've got two seniors, which provide the experience, the contacts, maybe investor relationships and so, and then you've got a junior who will do most of the work,
Yeah.
really, but may not have that name or that influence.
Yeah.
In reality, it's who takes the things up. If you were a junior, how you would negotiate that? Would you ask for lots of equity? Would you combine equity with
Salary? Yeah, I would combine equity with salary, honestly. Because also, like a partner is someone who takes kind of financial risk. You're either not taking the salary, so you're taking the hit. If you need the salary, yeah, ask for the salary and for some like equity, obviously. First hires, and we published on our blog post, I can share with the organizers the link. So we published the blog posts, like the recommendations for the first 10 hires. So basically, let me just see. And it's among all of the startups. So how much equity? So let's see. So for the first 10 employees, if it's hire number one, it's approximately between, anywhere between 0.2 to like 6%. I would say 1.5% is common for hire number one. And then it goes down, right? It's like 0.8% to 1.5%. Hire number three is 0.5% to 1.1%. And on the blog post, we even have a calculator because it depends seniority. Technical, non-technical. Technical counts for more. and what kind of like hire. And also depends on a stage of the company. For example, yeah, the more later stage, the less equity they get, obviously.
How does bootstrapping influence that?
Say it-
Bootstrapping?
Bootstrapping.
How does it make?
I mean, bootstrap. Are you talking from the employee perspective or the like co-founder perspective?
Both. That's maybe, yeah.
For co-founder, like obviously, if you're bootstrapping, it's even more risk on you. So like, I think you should be like, to give you an example, the legal product company that I'm building. So because the potential, like the CTO, I'm narrowing down between a couple of candidates, but the two main candidates, they're not going to be taking salary for up to a year. So I'm like, okay, you are taking the risk here. You are senior, you can get a job for 500K, you're not taking the salary. So I'm willing to give anywhere between like 20 to 40% of the company for that. You're not taking the salary. But there is another candidate, he wants at least 150K salary. I'm like, okay, then it's going to be like around 10% of the equity for a co-founder. Yeah, it's like you have only equity and cash to play with. So that's how you, yeah.
Do you have any recommendations from a legal perspective for someone who wants to come to Silicon Valley and either work, join a company, or maybe found their own company here?
Yeah, do you mean like immigration?
Yeah.
So we actually host a webinar with my colleagues. My colleague, she used to work at Cooley, and now she started a startup for immigration. So we have, let me see, I think it's this Thursday. Oh, no, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow at 12 p.m., how immigrant founders can start a US company and get a visa. So happy to also send that invite. You can join the webinar. Alma, we do things legal for startups. They do immigration for folks who want to work at a startup or like for founders. Yeah.
Are there some benefits in founding a company as U.S. citizen compared to an immigrant with already like a visa eligible for becoming a founder?
Ooh, benefits. I'm like, tax, probably no, because if you're a US citizen, you pay taxes globally, no matter where you live. So there is this advantage. If you're here, you pay taxes. It doesn't matter whether you're a citizen or visa. I think it's just the stability, right? Like the feeling that, okay, you have something, you have the immigration status. I think it's mental stability. I started my company the day I became a US citizen. I'm like, okay, they can't kick me out. So like, I am here. Yeah, but I don't think there are that many benefits. Yeah.
What was one of your biggest mistakes on your journey until right now?
Oh, wow. None. Yeah, like.
If you could go back, what would you change? Like maybe a decision you made that you would do differently now that you know more?
No. I think like I could say like I should have, I think dreaming big and betting on yourself, it's always like you should always do that. But if I didn't have that experience working at startups, because my first jobs, because of the visa, they were not the jobs that I necessarily wanted, but it ended up being very helpful for my experience. So although I didn't necessarily enjoy it, I needed it. So I wouldn't cut those years. Yeah. I guess the only one thing that I would do better is, the mindset and really taking care of like how I think, my emotional state. Because when I came here, it was very stressful and I didn't have the support system. So the war, like Russia, Ukraine started, all of my savings were in ruble. So they just dropped and it was very stressful. And you have so much pressure that, okay, now you don't have savings. Then you have to find a job. You don't have a visa. You have to find a job that sponsors you. Like as an immigrant, like not only finding a job, but that sponsors you. You need to pass the bar exam. So I really paid all of the attention to pushing. And the mental health component is really important. When you push yourself in this, push with the scarcity, with the fear, you're not optimizing you're not thinking positively, you're not optimizing for the upside, you're optimizing for the downside. I should have like had a therapist, a coach. I had books, so like that really helped me, but I think having like a support system, it would be easier. Yeah.
So what is the habit number one you would suggest, which made the biggest impact, not only in the career, but also mentally, so for both?
Being present. Being present, and it's the mindfulness. It's truly the key. I can tell you, let me just make sure we are okay on time, because I know I have, yeah, I gotta run in like 3 minutes. And that's actually the webinar I'm hosting right now at 12 p.m. Mindset and energy management for high performers. So when,
What do you implement?
yes, I'll tell you the story how that habit came to me. So when I was preparing for the bar exam, I came here, I didn't speak fluent English. So for me, it was really hard to study. So I would have a book and then a dictionary. And when I was preparing for the bar exam, you have intense schedule. And when you're taking the bar exam, it's a 2 days. And every like 30 seconds, they're scheduled. So when you take the bar exam, you have a budget seconds for each question. And it's very regimented. So if you're anxious, if you're fearful, it's not just gonna work. You can't sit for 6 hours and focus on like those seconds, especially if you don't understand some of the words. So I didn't pass on my first bar exam because I was really rushing through. I was like, I can't breathe, I can't do it. Like, I just want it over. And I had to figure out, like, what do I do? I've read the book Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. I highly recommend that book. On my second exam, so it took me around a month to become very mindful. So for example, when I'm here right now, I am here now. And the moment my thoughts drift into like the next thing, or like whether it's going to be possible, you just come back yourself to the present moment. And for a month, I was training myself to do just that. I would start in like in 20 minutes breaks, and then I will just lay down and breathe and focus on my breathing. So what started happening after a month, it's almost like magic. Answers come out of nowhere. You read a sentence and you feel. You don't know the translation of the word, but you're like, I think it means like, for example, I don't know the word table. I'm like, okay, there's a cup on this and that it was moved. So I don't care that I don't know the word table. I understand what is happening. So you get into this mental space of clarity. Time almost stretches, and crazy intuition. And it almost feels magical. I passed the bar exam. I changed the strategy in the moment because I heard that 60% of the grade will be allocated to the essays. And while I was hearing these instructions, I was like, I'm just gonna put D on my test and I will spend all of my time on the essays. So logically it didn't make sense. But because I was in this present state for a month and I could trust it, right? It's not drugs, it's not alcohol, it's me, it's being present. So I just trusted my intuition. I changed the strategy in the moment, passed, and I use this, I guess, mindset. I passed the California bar exam like that, like whenever something, being present, mindfulness. Yeah, the magic really starts happening after like week 2, 3.